Testing 1 2. Okay, thank you for joining me. My name is Jaikwal Ban Yisrael. Welcome to my channel. Okay, thank you. Welcome to my channel, a channel for faithists I like to do every Tuesday and Friday, and thank you for joining me. I want to begin by informing anyone who, the faithist community, the community of brethren who can subscribe to the OAHSPE e-guidebook Bible. I just want to give a little update on the billboard project that we have going on, billboard project, where the objective is to put a billboard up in every state in the United States and then go on to the world, just publishing, promoting the OAHSPE. So Atlanta, they took it away from me. And St. Louis, they took that away from me. And the way it works is you make a reservation, and somebody can come along and they can outbid you or whatever. The way it works is you make a reservation, and at the time of the posting of the site where you want to put the billboard up at, other people are making reservations for that same site. So you may make a reservation for it, and somebody has already made a reservation for it, and I guess they go by first come, first serve. And I made a reservation for Atlanta. I made a reservation for St. Louis, and both of them got taken. And so I'm just going to keep trying. The one in St. Louis was a great location. It was right by the arch, right by the arch. Some of these locations are so fantastic, it's hard to believe that well, we have two that are going up. August 31st, the billboard in Biscayne, Florida is going up. And September 14th, the billboard in Cincinnati, Ohio is going up. And so I'll let you, brethren, I'll keep you posted for what we're going to have going up, going forward for October. You have to give them like a month's notice. You have to schedule it like a month ahead of time for the billboards to go up. On the screen, I have what the billboards are going to look like. So thank you for joining me. The study is going to be pretty good today. I think you're going to really enjoy it. I was able to come across some information about what the Creator has to say about what we can do while we're in this reality for our deceased loved ones, parents. I put parents on the title, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that there was anything that we could do to benefit our deceased loved ones. You would think that the creator would talk about that. You would think that people, they want to know if there's what they can do to benefit those that their family that have gone on, if there's anything that they can do. I think that that's something that a lot of people would like to know. And the OAHSPE, the creator, he tells you he doesn't run from no subject is too difficult for the creator. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, did a little study on that. Before I begin, I want to introduce anyone who may be interested to a website where we have ministry and information for the OAHSPE, where you can go for ministry and information. You can there are ministries there that they conduct a couple of times during the week. So you can go to the website right here for contact information. If you want to find out more about where we're coming from, what we believe, here's the ministries, the information. Every Wednesday, I broadcast a Bible study on my channel. We didn't have one last week. Once out of the month, they do another ministry where it's a more of a group meeting, and I do not broadcast it. But here are the ones that you can take part of if you're interested. And then we have the Faithists, a statement to help anyone to understand what a faithist is, what we believe in, that sort of thing. You can go there and read that. And so today, before I get into the study, I want to talk a little bit more about the 9 entities that I had been talking about last week. And I just thought it was so interesting, so amazing. I felt like I wanted to cover it again. Now, before I do that, I forgot to mention in the video comment section of the channel, there are links to, if you would like to have an OAHSPE, we have brethren who will send them to you for free. We'll send them to you for free. If you a little short on funds and you can't get it through Amazon, you can contact these brothers and they will send it to you. They will send it to you for free. So let me put them up on the screen. You can send them an email. Send it to this right here, this link right here, theeloists.com. They'll send it to you for free. And then in addition to that, the Unknown Many, they have a supplemental 6-volume set that is basically, it's just a supplement to the OAHSPE, just a supplement to help understand, to point you in the direction of things that are spoken of in the OAHSPE 6-volume set here. You can contact me in the video comment section. Get in touch with me if you're a little short on funds. You think you'd like to have the 6-volume set, it'll be my pleasure to send it to you totally for free. They're on Amazon at the lowest price they can possibly go. So there's another link in the video commentary section for the Books to Prison program, which I just think is out of sight, man. Opportunity to send the OAHSPE, send the light into the prisons nationwide. The link there, Books to Prison program. And also the Billboard Project, I forgot to mention, there's a GoFundMe link for brethren who want to chip in and be a part of the project. The Billboard Project, there's a GoFundMe link in the video comment section. If you want to help be a part of it, I think it's an incredible opportunity The link is right there in the video commentary section. All right. Now, having said that, let's jump right into the study. First of all, I wanted to revisit a little something that I talked about a couple of days ago. The 9 entities. I just thought it was incredibly fascinating, and I want to share it again. The 9 entities. The 9 entities are the sons and daughters of Jehovah, and they're a picture of our reality, and you just got to love it, man. When you get into it, you just got to love it. You have got to love it, man. you know, because the creator is showing you, he basically showing you how he raises us step by step. He starts with Satantes, and then after Satantes get finished with our mindset, our consciousness, we get handed over to Cosmin. And then when Cosmin, let me make sure I'm saying this right, because I don't want to make a mistake. We go from Satantes over to Cosmin. After Satantes, or not Satantes, but after Cephas, after we get finished with Cephas, which has been with us from the creation, from the beginning, well, the time of Satantes, really. Then we get handed over to Cosmin, which is a woman. Cosmin is a woman. It's a daughter of Jehovah, Cosmin. The entities are 4 sons and 4 daughters. How do you like that? The entities are 4 sons and 4 daughters, man. The spiritual entities, 4 sons and 4 daughters. And so then Cephas, which we're just now coming out of, which we should just now be coming out of, Cephas. After Cephas, we get handed over to Cosmin, which is a woman. Cosmin is a woman. It's a woman entity, a daughter of Jehovah, Cosmin. And she takes us and makes us ready to mature spiritually and physically, to come to maturity in the spirit and in the physical, to come to maturity in the spirit and in the physical. Now, I put a little definition up on the screen for the definition of maturity. Definition of maturity. And I'm telling you, man, when you become really familiar with the entities, and I could be, you brethren may already know everything that I'm talking about. It's all new to me, I just get a kick out of it, man. I truly, I get a kick out of it. We in the Cosmin era right now. It's like Cephas, he taught us the things that we should have learned by now, to learn to really teach us discipline, to teach us structure, to teach us routine, to teach us endurance through outside institutions. That's what Cephas did. Like the church, like the government, like anything that has to do with they're like guardrails for mankind, like guardrails to keep us from destroying one another, to help us to grow. Like you have the mom and the dad and the family, and they're pretty much, their responsibility is to raise the young, keep them out of trouble, teach them, that sort of thing. Same thing on a macro level, spiritually. The creator, he started us off with Cephas, okay? Satantes implemented Cephas, the structure for our after we were created and began to our growth on the earth. We needed a structure. Cephas, that's what Cephas was for, that which is in force, Cephas. Now, 1800s, we got handed over to Cosmin. Although Cephas is still lingering around, that's where people, they just won't let go of the old way, won't let go of the old traditions, won't let go of old religion, won't let go of looking to the government for them to lead them and guide them, looking for anything outside of themselves to lead them, and will not let the old tradition go, holding to the same consciousness uh, quick to um, be, to um, sow to the flesh, you know, to quick to hold on to the ego, to the vainglory. All that is part of Cephas, really, part of the old tradition, the old mindset. Cephas, one of the nine entities. This is an amazing thing, man. Now we in Cosmin, and Cosmin, which is a woman, is one of the daughters of Jehovah, is going to bring us to maturity. It's like, okay, you should have learned all your lessons by now. Now it's time for you to take on more responsibility according to knowledge. According to knowledge. According to knowledge, man. It's a beautiful program that we under. So you figure, just like a child, they grow and they become young adults, and they become teenagers, and then with each step along the way, they have to take on more responsibility according to what they understand. Same way for us. Here we are, we in Cosmin now, the era of Cosmin, time where we have learned spiritually. Basically, we've learned that this is not all there is, and that there's a um, we should have learned by now to not only just to believe, but then to practice what we say we believe. All that is a part of maturity. That's what Cosmin is going to do for the world. For those who are ready, we're going to go on to maturity. One of the things that I wanted to revisit the entity of Cephas for is because the Creator, once we get a good understanding based on my own inner light and experience, it's just a real blessing. It's a real encouragement to your soul. When you get the understanding of the nine entities down and what they are here to do, you see the beauty of the Creator. You see how He's raising us up. You see how each of the entities, how they play a part in our resurrection. They play a part in our resurrection, man. Matter of fact, now here's maturity. Here's the definition of it: state of being fully grown, developed, or ready. Maturity, fully grown, developed, or ready. And really, Cosmin is going to get us ready for Te. Te, the entity Te. If I'm not mistaken, if you look at the history according to the OAHSPE, it's like the Creator, He gives us a son, then He gives us a daughter, then He gives us a son, and then He gives us a daughter. Now, a couple of them are pretty, what's a good word for continuous? You know, I mean, they make their appearances like off and on all through our creation, our reality, like Hawk, Hawk, HAK, which is the entity who stands for darkness, ignorance. Hawk is entity and is counted as a daughter, Hawk, you know. And you got Uz, which is dissolution, but Uz also plays a part in the ongoing reality, consciousness of mankind as well. But then there are others that have more of a time period that they're going to influence the world, like where we are right now. Cosmin, Cephas, and then Cosmin, and then Cosmin's going to give way to Te. Te, the highest expression of mankind. Te. Cosmin is going to prepare us. Cosmin is like what? It's like a 3,000 year cycle of time. Cosmin, the era we're in right now, 3,000 year cycle of time. When Cosmin get finished with us and hand us over to Te, for those who are ready, that's going to be the vibration is going to be on men to start building the kingdom on the earth. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, it's going on right now, bit by bit, incrementally, the Cosmin era, but it's a procedure, it's a progress. That's the thing that, I mean, I get a kick out of that, man. You know, the Cosmin era, how it's going to prepare us for the time of Te. When we start talking, we start thinking, we start vibrating like Tay did when he was talking to the creator and the OAHSPE, that's the vibration that's going to be on men. It's going to be a slow departure from Cephas, man, the old order. It's going to be a slow departure, man, but we're eventually, and then Tay is going to prepare us for, uh, I think it's ES, or is it Esfoma? I forget which one. Let me see. If it's Tay, then ES is after Tay. And from what I understand, Esfoma is also one of the entities that it's it's like on and off. Esfoma. Esfoma. It's like something, it's a inclination, something is in the wind that comes on men, that comes on their vibration. So you got Cosmin, then you got Tay, and then you got ES, and then you got Uz. Cosmin, Tay, ES, and then Uz. That's the program for the world from here on out. That's the program for the world from here on out. That's the schedule for the world from here on out. And then when Uz comes on the scene, that's the dissolution of the earth. The earth will have served its purpose and the harvest will have been delivered. And then same thing take place on another earth, worldly or world, earth creation somewhere else, from what I understand. So that's the beauty of what the Creator's program is for us. That's the whole beauty right there, man. We're in the cosmic era right now. We're going to be taking it one way in our vibration. For those who are ready, some people are never going to leave Cephas. Never going to leave that mindset, man. Never going to leave that earthly mindset. Never going to leave that vainglorious, that ego mindset. Never going to leave it. The old way, not going to mature, not going to elevate. Going to have to wait until the spiritual, going into the spiritual. And I'm talking about faithists too. There are going to be faithists who are not going to leave Cephas in the sense that they are not going to be able to walk in the light. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 12 virtues. That's what I mean, really. The 12 virtues, you know. I mean, there will be a lot of brethren who are under a great knowledge vibration. But I'm telling you, man, the OAHSPE is more serious than that. I'm coming to find out. It is, and the creator, from what I can understand, man, he just lays it out. He lays it out, man. A farmer don't argue with the crop. It goes into the field. It says, okay, who's ready to be harvested? And then he just clip it and he put it in the, in the barn, He don't fuss with it. He don't go back and forth. He just says this one's ready, that one's ready, this one's not. That's the same way with us, man, So I'm not trying to be harsh when I talk about there are faithists who are not going to leave Cephas, not going to leave Cephas, man, And I hope I'm trying to make it clear about matter of fact, I want to go to a post. Let me do this. Maybe this will help me make my point. I ain't trying to offend nobody, man. Truly, I'm not. But let me see. Let me see if I can find a post that I put in my room that I think is going to help me make my point. Let me see if I can find it. There's a post that I put up. Let me see. Let me look for it. Let me look for it. Where the creator, he just lays it out, man. Okay, here we go right here. I think this is it right here. Oh, did I lose it? Nope, there we go right there. And we ought to think about this, man, because I think the world teaches us to try to influence us like Christianity. You just say you're a Christian and then that's it. You got a ticket that says admit one, and that's all there is, But I'm telling you what I'm learning with the creator. that even the faithless can deceive themselves, meaning you think you are something that you are not, man. And you do not, you may, and from what I could see, the creator, he may nudge you a little bit, but he don't force nobody, you know, to make the resurrection, man. Now I want to read this real quick and hopefully it'll help me make my point. It says, yes, OAHSPE teaches that every person comes to a reckoning with the creator. Now, it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just the truth, man. It's just the truth. There is no permanent hiding place. Grade, bondage, and the law of attracts like, attracts like, operate whether one is still in the body or becoming spirit. Let me read it again. It says, yes, OAHSPE teaches that every person comes to a reckoning with the creator. You see that? If not on earth, then in the heavens. And it's nothing to be afraid of, man. It's really just the truth. We reap what we sow. Who can argue with that, man? You know what I mean? That's what maturity is all about. It's about accepting responsibility, man. You know, there's a time when you could blame the parents, you knew it was on them, all the responsibility and, it was it was on them. But it come a time when you have to get ready to leave the house, you know. Cephas is the house that eventually we got to leave it. It had a job to do through its institutions, through its organizational structure, you know, and now we've gotten to a point where we know a little bit about spirituality. We know about our responsibility in the world. I don't mean to sound harsh, man. I'm telling you the truth. You know, it says, yes, OAHSPE teaches that every person comes to a reckoning with the Creator. If not on earth, then in the heavens. It says there is no permanent hiding place. Grade, bondage, and the law of like attracts like, operate whether one is still in a body or has become a spirit. You see that? There is no bias. No bias, man. The law of grade, bondage, and the law of like attracts like, operate whether one is still in the body or has become a spirit. The book of judgment and many other sections describe this as inevitable. Then why would we fight against it? You know what I mean? If you know something is inevitable, why would you fight? Well, you have to be able to receive it first. That's the rub right there. You know, this channel here is for brethren who can receive, who can hear the Creator's voice. I mean, both the soft and easy and the things that are kind of hard to swallow, man. I don't hold back. I try to tell the truth, man. Based on my highest inner light and what the Creator is showing me. It ain't no benefit in trying to cover up, trying to soften. I mean, there's a very delicate way to say things, which is always best. But it don't do none of us any good, man, to hide the less savory things about what we believe. You know what I mean? That should make sense, man. Don't you want somebody? I want somebody to tell me the bitter truth, man. You know what I mean? A doctor will. I know that. You know, it would help if how they phrase it, how anybody phrases what they have to say that is a touch unpleasant. You know what I mean? But you'd rather know than not. It says on earth, a person judges himself by the life he lives. He works his treatment of others and his works, his treatment of others, and whether he runs toward Jehovah or toward self determined, whether he runs toward Jehovah or toward self, determine, determines his place. After death, the same measure continues. After death, the same measure continues. What measure? A person judges himself by the life he lives, by his works, his treatment of others, and whether he turns toward Jehovah or towards himself. It determines his place. After death, the same measure continues. The same measure continues, meaning as you reap, we will sow. What we have created here on the earth, it continues in the spirit. The spirit goes to the condition that matches the life just lived. Those who worship false gods remain bound to those names. Those who lived in darkness remain in darkness until they change. Those who served others rise. The reckoning is not a single courtroom scene with a distant judge. It is the unfolding of what the person already has made of himself. Joby does not need to force it. The soul needs the consequences of his own choices in the place it has prepared. Even false gods themselves came to this reckoning. They were judged, their kingdoms were taken, and they were required to labor at undoing what they had done before they could rise. The same principle applies to every individual, high or low. Now, the judgment of the false gods, that was like what, thousands of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, man, I forget what time period that was. Might have been the Ark of Speda, you know, around the time of what? I don't even want to speculate, but I know it was a long time ago. You know, they still working to undo what they have done before they can resurrect. They know what glory looked like. They know what the higher realms look like. They got cast out until they undo everything they have done here on earth. They working right now. They've been working ever since they were judged thousands of years ago. That's what people don't understand. That's what people do not understand. When you cross over, when people cross over, they go to a heavens looking for their deity, and there's nothing. It's like a guy will walk up to you and say, "Hey, who you looking for?" You're gonna say, "Jesus Christ, I'm a Christian." He's gonna say, "Sorry, man. You know, he got evicted about 2-3 thousand years ago. The false Christ, Louis Mang, you know." The dude will probably say, "Well, how do you know?" The guy talking to him will say, "Probably because I'm Louis Mang." you know. Now, here I am in the first resurrection with you. And even though I'm sitting here trying to tell you no longer to believe in a God, Lord, or Savior, you still not going to even believe me. And I'm the reason why you are in this situation you in. I'm the reason you are in the situation you're in. And here I'm telling you, don't believe that any longer. And you still not going to believe me, and you're going to stay right here with me. We're going to both be here in the first resurrection until I'm going to be here until you change your mind. And I'm going to be here in this first resurrection until all these people that I deceived into worshiping me, I got to stay here until every single one stops making a deity out of me. Now, that's just me trying to not embellish, but just to simplify the spiritual story of what's going on right now. What's going on right now? Matter of fact, I'll bring it home. There was I know y'all probably heard Dolly Parton died. Everybody knows who she is, you know, famous singer, you know, real beautiful woman, you know, Dolly Parton, and she was devout Christian. Now, I read one thing that it gave me hope about her. She said, "I'm not religious, I'm spiritual." Now, a lot of people say that. They say, "I'm not religious, I'm spiritual." I feel better when someone says that. She said, "I'm not religious, I'm spiritual." And then I read a little more, and it became obvious that she believes in Jesus Christ. She worships Jesus Christ. I read a little more. If the accounts are true, you know. Now, when she when she and anyone else in that same position, when they go into their spirit, they look for a kingdom that's no longer there. It's no longer there, man, you know. So now what? We just wander around, you know. Let's say that you find yourself on another planet, you know, and it's a beautiful planet. The spiritual is more glorious than the earth. I know that. The spirit is more glorious than the earth. And then there you are on that glorious planet where it's far, far greater than the earth. And you're just kind of wandering around, man. You know, from what I understand, that's the condition, that's the plight, according to people's spiritual grade. You know, maybe you were a high grade. You had a high grade, but you were a Christian, you know. Then the from what I understand, the conditions are more pleasant, you know. If you had a low grade while you were on the earth, you know, robbing banks, shooting people up, breaking the law, stealing and robbing, then there's a part for you to go to that fits your grade, you know. But in both cases, if you are under a deity, you won't find him there. You won't find him there because the creator, he said, when the cosmic era come around, when the cosmic era come around, he was going to remove them. And that's what he did. And they're no longer in heaven. And so people will go looking for something that ain't there and be left to wonder and just become wandering spirits according to your grade and the place that fits your grade. You know, that's the seriousness of our reality. That's the seriousness of it, you know? And so when you understand Cephas a little better, man, you know, when you understand the entities a little better, you know, then it really, it really, you know, it bless your soul. It really bless your soul, man. When we understand the entities, when we understand them a little better, man, you know. Let me see if I could find where I was at because I wanted to read a little bit um, about Cephas. I wanted to go into him a little bit more because that's where we are right now. Cephas, the um, Cephas will prepare us for Tay, for Tay, Tae, Tay. You know the book of Tay in the OAHSPE. Now I'm looking for what I had up on the screen. I can't find it. I wanted to speak a little bit about going to Cephas a little bit more. Cephas, one of the 9 entities. It's really heavy, man, you know. But even a faithist can stay in Cephas. Even a faithist. That's what got my attention. A faithist can stay in Cephas, meaning under the old vibration, under the old mindset. You may have all the knowledge in the world, man. And you can say, right, it has everything to do with like the 12 virtues, man. I can't find it. What I wanted, I can't find it. Let me keep looking. I'm gonna. Um, oh man, I can't believe that I can't find what I had up on the screen. Wanted to. Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah, here we go. Now, when I learned that about Faithus, then that got my attention. That got my attention because I know that um, there's a possibility. Oh, Let me go to the screen. There is a possibility. I read, and you read in the OAHSPE about spirits that were high raised. They go into they come back to the earth, man. They leave the earth, they go into the spirit, they come back to the earth, And I can't understand that. And I think that there are better people than me that have gone into the spirit and who have probably wanted to come back to the earth. I don't want that. I don't want it, man. But then I don't trust myself, I feel like there are people who have much greater strength than I have, who have fallen to that vibration. I don't know. I could be wrong. I pray, man, that, I hope that, that's not the case concerning myself or you. But the benefit of those who learn the lesson of Cephas, learning the lesson of Cephas, what is the benefit? That you no longer need to be ruled from the outside. You no longer need to really have anyone tell you what's right, a government or Congress or a Senate or to make laws to tell you that this is what morality is, this is how to act. And, that's what Cephas was for, to teach mankind how to live, how to be, to be to be able to be connected with one another. Cephas was the long lesson of established order, law, religion, government, calendar, family rule. This is how it's done. The point was not that man should stay a child under a whip. The point was that corpers would be trained enough that spirit, ES, could later stand up. So you can see the objective. You can see the objective. It's like the creator, he gives a Cephas, he puts corpor in Cephas. He puts us in a body in Cephas. And then the reinforcements that Cephas is going to give us is what's going to help us to walk, to keep the light. When ES comes along, when Cosmin comes along, with the greater light, with the maturity, having been in Cephas, having been in the body, because the body, when we're in the body, then the reinforcements of the world help us to make good decisions. Like you have to keep this law, you have to obey that, you have to restrain yourself, you have to discipline yourself. That's a lot of what Cephas, a lot of what Cephas was all about, to keep us, to learn, to govern ourselves. And the body helps us to do that because of the instant stimuli. But when you go into the spirit, from what I understand, that benefit is no longer there. The benefit of the body and some vibration or something that it is an obstacle. Like here, like you're in the we're here, we're on the earth. And maybe we believe one thing, we talk to somebody and they believe another way, and we see the light in what they're saying, and we're able to make the transition from darkness to light. We're able to make the transition from darkness to light. We're here, we're in these mortal bodies, we're able to make the transition through some intervention while we're in the body that we don't get in the spiritual. That's why people, they can go into the spiritual, they take the same mind with them. And it could be hundreds or thousands of years where they stay in the same place. They stagnate for that long. Stagnate. Cephas was the long season of established order. Law, religion, government, calendar, family rule. The point was not that man should stay a child under a whip. The point was that corpor, there you go, the body, would be trained enough that the spirit could later stand up. So it's like you go into the spirit without the body. Now it's like you're there with those who are like-minded. There's no opposition there. You know what I mean? Unless a high-raised lesson Ethereum come and raises you and makes an intervention. an Ethereum has to make an intervention. That's how people in the lower realms, that's their hope of being delivered. And then I also want to touch on another little thing about the importance of we as faithists and what we could do to benefit our loved ones, our parents, our family who have gone on. You can do something here on the earth to benefit your loved ones who have gone on. You know, maybe there are those of us who have had family members who were not faithists. They did not know anything about the light. Maybe they were under a deity, but the creator, the OAHSPE, he says that we have a connection that's not broken with our mom, our dad, our family. And even right now, they are able to, from what I understand, they can, um, what's a good word for, I'm trying to think of a good word to where they can relate to, they can hear us, they can, we can affect them. We can affect them. I don't know how that happens 100%. We can affect our loved ones, our family. We can affect them by the things we do here on the earth. What is the benefit of those who learn the lesson of Cephas? What is the benefit? They can enter Cosmin instead of repeating Cephas. They can enter Cosmin. They'll be ready. They're ready to make the resurrection from Cephas to Cosmin. Now you can make the resurrection. In other words, they reflect on Cephas, the mindset that they had under the vibration of Cephas, under that which was established, the organization and institutions, and how it taught us to exercise some type of discipline, to exercise a obedience to what we believe. What is the benefit of learning the lesson of Cephas? A faithist can keep what was proven good: cleanliness, industry, discipline, Sabbath word kept, and drop what was only enforcement. Savior thrones, follow me, war is holiness. See, this is Cephas right here. This is going on today, right now. This type of stuff is going on, and the whole most of the world is under this right here. Cephas, Savior thrones, you know, the deities, Savior thrones, looking to Savior thrones to save them. All of this is under Cephas, the old order. All of this is under Cephas, Savior thrones, follow me, war as holiness, righteous wars of whole. What do they call it in the world? Holy wars. Belief without practice. See, this is Cephas. They become able to, in the Cosmin era, brethren who are able to make the resurrection into the Cosmin era, they become able to know and do, which is the cosmic command. Because by the time Te roll around, Te, the entity Te, these ain't going to be people who just talk about, these going to be doers. I'm not saying they're not here now, but on a worldwide scale, the vibration of man is going to be, it's going to be people who, they don't talk, man, they do. They live in, I don't want to put off a good work. I don't want to sound like that, but we're in Cosmin right now. There's a progression that's taking place where our minds are being changed from relying on governing ourselves from outside institutions to governing ourselves from the inside, where the creator is, where he's speaking to us, where we know what's right. We know to do what we know, to self-abnegate, to be selfless, to put down the ego, the self, the vainglory, the flesh. We know that now. Now it's time for us to start walking in it, to walk in it, man, you know? Because by the time Tay comes around, that's going to be common. That's going to be the common example. Man's mind is his mind is going to change. That's what the book of Tay is all about. It's going to show that's a whole nother man talking right there in the book of Tay. The things he has, the purity of his speech. That's a whole nother man talking there. What is the benefit of those who are able to graduate from Cephas? They stop building little false gods. The unlearned graduate of Cephas only changes masters. The unlearned graduate of Cephas, meaning the one who doesn't make the resurrection out of Cosmin, out of Cephas to Cosmin, he's called an unlearned graduate of Cephas. He's an unlearned graduate. He has not overcome his lower vibration toward himself. He is still his primary focus, although he says he believes only in the Creator. His actions prove that he is his own primary focus. The same thing that we were taught in Cephas, where people were taught materialism. We were taught materialism. It came along with the established order as man began to build cities and live amongst himself, and these things just came along. They were like, what do you call what they call in war? They call it I forget. There's a name they use for unintended consequences. You know, I forget what they call it. An unlearned graduate of Cephas, man. Unlearned graduate of Cephas. That means a person who we come out of it in practice, and well, not practice, but in actuality, because we're not in Cephas no more. There are some residual effects of Cephas that we're trying to put down because we in Cosmin. But the unlearned graduate, he only changes masters. We shouldn't have masters anymore other than the Creator. It says he changes masters. See, he cries liberty. He tells everybody liberty, you know. Okay, we're free. We're in the Cosmin era. He cries liberty, and then he says, but follow me though. I know how to, interpret, how to walk, how to teach, how to, The one who learned the lesson, he sees the pattern. Outer order was a school, not a God, meaning in Cephas, institution, churches, organization, that was all to keep us in line, really, to teach us some sense, man, of character and dignity, to teach us something, man. You couldn't just leave man alone to where he would, just go willy-nilly without something checking him. The body was to check us. Cephas was to check us, kind of hold us in line some type of way, And even then you can see the failure of it, the way people break out on one another in war and fighting and imbalances and me and selfishness and, Outer order was the school. Outer order, the institutions that we went through, the churches, the governments, outer order, laws, statutes, commandments of the Uzians of the world, but they were not a God. Jehovah is sufficient. Jehovah is sufficient that saves them from a long first resurrection bondage to a name. Jehovah is sufficient. What is another benefit of being able to come and graduate out of the entity of Cephas? Family and colony can have peace without a tyrant. Now here it talks about virtue 6. I didn't read the virtues yet. Virtue 6, I might not be able to get to them. I might try. Virtue, there are 12 virtues talked about. I think it's in the book of Ben. Y'all remember that? The 12 virtues? I think it's in the book of Ben, the 12 virtues, where it's basically just showing you the highest light, what to walk in, the 12 virtues. Here it says, virtue 6 said, no family dwells in peace without self abnegation, without serving others. No family dwells in peace without trying to serve others. Cephas could force a household to look orderly. Cephas could force a household to look orderly. It could force a household. So, it's like you got a household and there could be a lot of chaos in a household, but they know that they have to have some form of, they have to have some form of, what's a good word for, they have to have some form of character to keep the household in order so the house doesn't burn down. It can look orderly because everybody knows that there has to be some sort of harmony so that they can keep living in the house and not burn the house down. Cephas could force a household to look like that, where people may realize that we have to be in this house. We have to treat each other a certain way in order to exist amongst one another. The lesson learned is order from self-control and love in speech. Self-control and love in speech. Then discipline and observance are chosen, not imposed. And say, like, we're living in a house, in the house, we had to exhibit some degree of self-control and watch how we talk to one another. Discipline and observance are chosen, not imposed. We have to make a decision to exercise discipline. And I don't know how to phrase observance, but it's something that we make a decision to apply to our own personality, our own character. Discipline and observance are chosen. It's not imposed. Creator doesn't force it on you. That is lighter bondage after death, meaning the family, the household that can grow up. Like, from what I understand, every family has a spiritual grade, like a spiritual grade. And then as you go on, the choices you make either elevate that grade or lower it. Can either elevate it or lower it, lower that spiritual grade. What is the benefit of being able to come out of Cephas? They are not thrown back into Hak, darkness, ignorance, when the old roof comes off. Meaning, since the Creator is now teaching us that we have to overcome ourselves, we have to be careful about the ego and have to be careful about pride and vainglory and wanting to be leaders or wanting to have our way and this and that. If we have that information and we practice it, then when the wheels come off of life, then we don't have to fall apart like everybody else because of their lack of understanding. People, they are not those who are able to come into Cosmin, and elevate, rise with Cosmin, maturity, physical and spiritual. They are not thrown back in the Hak when the old roof comes off, meaning the old system where now the Creator is showing us we have to live with one another, be in communities, we have to self-abnegate, serve one another. As we see that reality picking up, we can move with it. We don't go back into darkness, Hak, ignorance. When the old Cephas, the old tradition is done away with. When the enforced age dies, people who never learned why there was a law often go into anarchy and false philosophy. That is Hak. The one who learned Cephas can live without the whip and still not become a beast. That is the real graduation. Okay, I'm late at 6 o'clock. What is the benefit of coming out of Cephas? They are a fit for Tay's work later. They are a fit for Tay's work later. How do you like that? Is the heavy part right there. That's what our reality is all about, man. We may not realize it. We may not, if we can't move in Cosmin, man, we can't come out of Cephas and start moving in Cosmin to maturity. We can't be ready for Tay. We cannot be ready for Tay's work, man. We can't be ready for it, man. That's why, when I read, when I see in all this, take the Creator seriously. Take him seriously when it comes to you reforming yourself. Take him seriously, man, Take him seriously. Take him seriously, man. Now Tay won't be here for a few thousand years more. We won't be here. You know what I mean? Cosmin, if we can graduate from Cosmin, we will be fit for Tay's work later. Cosmin balances corpore and spirit. Yes, Tay is when man makes the earth a paradise. You cannot build that garden if you still need a king or a savior to tell you not to prey on your neighbor. Learning Cephas is how the beast is outgrown rather than only renamed. So the benefit is freedom that does not rot in the darkness. Inner law, Jehovah alone, works instead of enforced creed. Cephas kept humanity from falling apart while it was young. Learning Cephas is becoming old enough that the enforced shell can fall and a faith that still stand. Okay, I'm late for the study, the title of the video. Sorry about that. Let's get to it. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can benefit our parents, man, our loved ones. I'm just saying parents for right now, because I don't know how much it extends. But we can benefit. It just, when that came across my mind, that came into my vibration, it just blew my mind. I wanted to share it so bad. We can benefit our parents, man. Now, let me just get it up on the screen here. Only got a half hour left, so I got to move pretty fast here. How we can benefit our parents, man. How we can benefit our parents. How a faith is, how you on earth, and I would have to think it also extends to others, not just your parents, I'm just trying to pick people who would be closest to, us, your family who has passed on. The Creator says there's a way that we can benefit if you even just think about it, man. We're not broken. We're not disconnected from our family, even if after they leave the earth. We are not disconnected. Now, I happen to think that, I talk to my parents, I talk to them, and I trust they can hear me. And my sisters and my cousin, I talk to them, man. And whoever the Creator brings to my mind in my life, anybody who the Creator brings to my mind, I'll wish them well. I'll wish them peace, light, love, and knowledge. And if they're in the spirit world, I wish them progress in the spirit world, even if it was my worst enemy. Whoever he brings to my mind, I make a quick prayer for them. A quick prayer, man. I believe there's an effect in that. I'm sorry if I sound kooky, but let me pick it up because I'm late. I'm near the end of the video. It says, in OAHSPE, family is not ended by death. Family is not ended by death. And a lot of these things, really, they're just logical, In OAHSPE, family is not ended by death. It is one of Jehovah's built-in laws. Love, kindness, and responsibility continue in the ES world, the spirit world. This bond can raise a household or hold it and hate it. Listen to that. Think about that. Decide for yourself whether you think that's true. Let's read it again. In OAHSPE, family is not ended by death. Now, we all know that, right? That part we can agree on, right? It is one of Jehovah's built-in laws, man. Love, kindness, and responsibility continue. Look at that. It continues in the spiritual world. The bond can raise a household or hold it and hate it. That's where the lower spirit grades are how can I say this delicately? First, we all know with the first resurrection, what the for those who do not make the resurrection, meaning they're under a deity or they just had a very low spiritual grade or they sold to the earth more than they did to the creator, you know, those type of spirits, first resurrection. You being in the same family, having that bond, by simply having that bond. See, if there's a connection, then that has to mean the things you do here have an effect there. Maybe they I'm afraid to say they know what we do here on the earth. They can see what we do here. I don't know that. Maybe they can vibrate with what we do here and you know what I mean? So that if we speak to them and we ask that they seek the creator, I don't see how that would be ignored. I don't see how that wouldn't have an effect. But I don't want to I don't want my own, let me read some more. It says birth, likeness, and a new creation. Okay. Let's talk a little more about how we can affect what our spirit loved ones are going through. We can have an effect. Every child is a new creation, quickened by Jehovah at conception. No spirit from heaven is allowed to enter a womb and be born again. At the same time, a child comes in the likeness of father and mother, flesh and spirit. Diet, drunkenness, narcotics, anger, purity, and worship leave a mark. If it was on the parents, it's going to have a mark on the children. The family does not create the soul. It gives the soul its first body and its first current, vibration. That is the root of familial grade, a shared starting atmosphere, not an unbreakable cast, meaning you could be born in a very low spiritual grade family, but you can elevate, you can rise, and you can have an effect on your family rising too, because you're connected. And you are, matter of fact, there's a story in the OAHSPE where the angels were saying something like, they were asking Jehovah, they won't listen to us. They won't do what we tell them. We can't, they don't want to come with us. And Jehovah says, start with the young. Start with the young, man. They don't want to come over to the higher heavens. They don't want to come over to the more glorious resurrection. He said, go grab their children. Go grab their children, man. And then they'll come. Because why? Because their children are because they're coming after their children. You see that? That's why I'm saying this video here, I'm operating off of that principle. It works vice versa, man. We're here, we're on the earth. We can, you cannot reason that there's nothing that we can do to affect their, in the spirit world, we read earlier where corporal, it interferes with, in the spirit world, there's no interference to their mind. If you can understand what I'm saying, there ain't no interference. Like goes to like. That means that you go to somebody, they agree with you. It ain't going to be some other, some other guy say, hey, no, that ain't right. Everybody, it's going to be like goes to like. It ain't going to be no other, it ain't going to be no disagreement, somebody to step in unless it's an Ethereum, making an intervention. In the spirit, it's like they all agree with one another. Now, here you belong to that family. And my highest light is that we make a connection. We still have a connection with our departed loved ones. So what do you think of faith is? I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna tell my dad, I'm gonna tell my mom, go with the go with the Ethereans who are trying to tell you about the higher heavens and follow the light of the Creator. I'm gonna tell them that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's my spirit saying do that. I don't even really need to read anything, although I'm gonna keep reading here. It says conjoint bondage. The book of Jehovah says that the book of Jehovah says that to beget children is to receive a bondage to them. You see that? And from them together, two different loves are contrasted. Love of houses, money, and kingdoms binds the spirit to things that have no resurrection. Love of children binds persons who can resurrect. They may rise better together than alone. So the family bond is serious, but it is not the same as idolatry of wealth. A family bond can become a ladder. Two outcomes after death. Book of Judgment, chapter, what is that, 14, 13? Gives the fork. Book of Judgment, chapter 14, gives the fork. Pure parents, meaning in flesh and spirit, they bring heirs towards resurrection. After death, there is little or no bondage dragging the parents back to earth. If it's a fleshly, earthly, material only type of marriage, it brings years of bondage because you're going to bring children in under that same vibration. Profligacy, which means like laziness and, just, not good for anything, and sin come on the children. The parents fall in grade and remain long in Hada because more than likely the children are going to do things to lower their grade. If the parents bring that on the children, then the children, if they don't elevate, then they are it's going to vex the parents even more, and more than likely lower their spiritual grade. It ain't going to make it go higher. When you're under stress and vexation and anxiety and difficulty, that's not coming under a high grade. And it says celibates are told they will have less of this pull, meaning bondage of heirs, children, celibates, less of that pull. This is not a command that all must be celibate. It's a statement of mechanics. No offspring means fewer kindred changes, familiar spirits, and return to earth. Fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, and dear friends who have not been dead long and who have not risen out of earth's heavens are classed among familiar spirits. They stay near homes, children, and old habits, some for a few years, some far longer. That's why I was saying earlier, that connection, I mean, I believe that my mom and my dad, that they can hear me, that I'm connected to them. I can't communicate with them. At least I don't think I can. I haven't seen them in the spirit. I vibrate with them. I speak to them. I ask my Ashars to help them to make the resurrection. They might not have been faithless while they were on the earth. They might not have known about it, but I could certainly do something about it. You know, I could certainly do something about it. And you can too. This is why OAHSPE says, even glories of the lower heavens do not stop many spirits from going back to earth. Family love is one of the strongest magnets. Infants and delight. And the diamond law is a child of a faithless line who dies in infancy is not thrown in with the children of drugs. It is received where the parents after death may visit it with delight. Marriage of two obedient faithless is even called the beginning of a new heavenly kingdom, with rights among the Ashars in the same house. Family at its best is already a small heaven started on earth. Cosmic, recognizing kin. At the opening of Cosmic, the gates are kept open for a season so mortals and angels may meet face to face and know their own sons, daughters, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. The bond is not only hidden labor in Hada. The bond is not only hidden labor in Hada, meaning in a part of the lower heavens. The bond is not in any way broken, obscured. The bond is not only hidden labor in Hada. In this era, it can become a conscious communion. You hear? You gotta, without even you gotta know according to your inner light, this is right. Conscious communication, that's what I was looking for. Now, that does not automatically mean every voice claiming to be mom or dad is high grade. First resurrection kin can still be confused, bound to a deity name, or hungry for the earth. Now, that's where knowledge is important, man, you know? Hi, son, I'm your mom, and I just want to let you know that everything is just glorious up here in Jesus Christ's kingdom. We got a problem with that. We got a problem now, you see? You know, I'm saying, Mom, I'm sorry, but that is not true. It may be glorious, but it is not the Creator's kingdom. That deity is not the Creator, you know. That's a false God. Individual grade inside the family. A family has a grade. Each family member still has a grade. A faithist can stand in an Uzzian household. An Uzzian can come from pure parents. The child's own works decide how far the inherited current is followed. It's kind of like, you know, the light. You know, the light. You might say the light is the current. You know, the activating force. You know, high family grade makes rising easier. Meaning, you know, it does not make rising unnecessary, though. I mean, you still have to rise, even though you're in a high grade family. But you could be from a family that's history of self abnegation. You know, serving other people. You know, following the Creator, speaking of the Great Spirit only, high grade family. It makes the bondage of resurrecting easier here on the earth and in the spirit. But it doesn't mean like you now you just sit back, and you still have to elevate. We still have to, even if you're from a high grade family. What living children can do. What living children can do. OAHSPE does not teach that children on earth can buy parents out of Hada with rights or money. What helps is the same laws everywhere else. Live so as not to pull the dead back in the corpor. Luxury, war, uncleanness, savior worship. Rise in grade so that the conjoint bond draws upward instead of downward. So you hit the lottery, now you live in luxury and you don't want anybody to, get along, and you live in war, and you just, don't believe in purity, and, you are faithful at the church, and then your parents want to be where you are, follow your lead, if so to speak. There you are, there they go. These are things that have no resurrection, though. Luxury, war, uncleanness, savior worship. There's no resurrection in that. You stagnate. You stay right there, man. That's what it means when it says not to pull the dead back in the corpor. Keep them stagnated, unable to resurrect. Rise in grade so that the conjoint bond it draws you upward instead of down. Meaning, in other words, you may be on the side of the rope pulling your parents upward. You faithless. They're gone. They're in the spirit now, unless they were faithless. And now, you both are, if they're on that side of the rope, and, if you're faithless, then it's not that hard of a pull, but say they're faithless and you're an Uzian, and they're pulling you, then it's going to be that harder if you're into the world and you don't, you're, you just, you make it, it's like you add weight to them trying to pull you. And here you are faithless. Now it's switched. You pull them. You pull them here on the earth and say they were not faithless. They didn't, now it's up to you to pull them. Honor your parents by works, man, not by making the dead in the household gods. And some people, they do that. They make their parents gods. Don't do that, man. It's a strong vibration. That's a strong vibration. You make your parents gods, man. Parents who live for self may still need the children to become the there it is right there. That's it right there. What I was just saying, parents who live for self, maybe, you have parents and they did live for themselves. Okay, oh, shoot. I just clicked off of my own study. So maybe you have parents, and there are a lot of parents, who have lived for the sake of the earth. We have a responsibility, man. Sometimes, you even have young children. I remember the story of, what's his name? What is his name? Isaiah Thomas, I think. Let me see. Bear with me for a second. Let's take a little journey. Did Isaiah Thomas, the NBA player, have to take the burden of his family on himself at a young age?
Yes, the NBA player Isaiah Thomas, a Hall of Fame point guard, took on the...
Let's see, there he is right there. There were two Isaiah Thomases. I'm talking about this one right here in the middle of the screen there. So let's read a little bit about what he had to do. Now, he's a Taurus, incidentally. And a lot of times the Taurus, their assignment in life is to carry other people's burdens. It said, yes, Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Fame point guard for the Detroit Pistons, he carried the heavy emotional and psychological burden of his family's survival and escape from poverty as the youngest child. He carried the burden. He grew up in severe poverty. See, I can't go into all of it because it's the end of the video, but he could play basketball. The Creator gave him a gift. The Creator gave him a gift to be able to lift his family, so it fell on him from a young age. And so that's what we're reading about. And spiritually, now it could fall on you. You faithless. Maybe your whole family were Uzians. And now it's on you. You faithless. It's on you, man. You're on the earth. They're on the spirit. And now it's on you. Now I'm trying to get back to where I was. Was it? Okay. Let me see. Now that's the end of the study, so it must have been right here. Having children, let's see, is that where I was? Having children creates a form of spiritual responsibility or bondage that can persist after death. Parents may remain longer in the lower heavens, returning to or being influenced by their descendants, especially if those descendants remain in darkness. They're going to want to be where you are. Some passages indicate this influence can extend across multiple generations, commonly referenced in context of 6 generations or more. Yeah, the OAHSPE talks about that, right? for certain bonds. Celibates are described as having an advantage in this regard. Without offspring, they have less familiar bondage and can ascend more quickly into the higher heavens. Broader implications. The family line functions as a collective unit of light and darkness. High grade ancestors and descendants mutually support one another's resurrection. So who knows? Maybe you're a faithist because you have some descendants who have gone on into the spirit and the work that they have done for you. We don't know. Conversely, low grade behavior in children can pull the parents down. Just like, picture a mom running into a burning house to go get her child, same equivalency. Conversely, the child don't want their parents in there, but the bond of love, same in the spirit. Conversely, low grade behavior in children can pull parents downward, just as parental impurity burdens children. It works both ways. This system encourages careful choice of partners, purity of lifestyle, diet, and habits. And it just messed up on me, my screen. Okay. The system encourages careful choice of partners, purity of lifestyle, diet, habits, thoughts, raising children with wisdom and righteousness, not merely for personal salvation, but for the elevation of the entire family across the seen and unseen worlds. In the larger plan of Jehovah, the intergenerational dynamic helps explain cycles of light and darkness in races and nations, and why faithists emphasize educational colonies, orphan care, fraternal living as ways to raise collective grades. In essence, OAHSPE presents familial spiritual grades as a profound responsibility to each other in our family. We have a responsibility to each other and opportunity. The choices of one generation directly shape the spiritual trajectory of those who came before and those who follow. The highest honor and help one can give to parents, living or deceased, is therefore to live and raise the next generation at the highest possible grade. So that's it. Let me go to the room now, see if anyone's in there so I can greet you before I close the video. And my brother, of course, Elijah. Thank you, brother, joining in today. And so that is it for the study. And I want to, again, redirect your attention to the Billboard project, man. We got a donate GoFundMe site. You can chip in if you want. A couple other links in the comment section of the video, the channel, the books, the prison. So many things to do, man, to raise the spiritual grade, man. So many things, man. Contact the brethren there in the video, the commentary section of the channel for a free OAHSPE. And if you're a little short on funds, a 6-volume set to have them sent to you. And so, brethren, thank you, Jehovah, for letting us know that we can do something for our spiritual deceased loved ones. We can do something here on earth. We can take our end of the rope and pull them higher in grade, or they can pull us higher in grade. Jehovah, I just ask that for our deceased loved ones, that we who are still on the earth, that we can pull our deceased loved ones higher, that we can increase in light while we're here on the earth, that we could make the full opportunity of our reality, and that you will keep on telling us things like this to let us know the importance of the opportunity that we have while we're on the earth. Jehovah, I thank you for this opportunity and for allowing me to do this study. I thank you and praise you. In your name, I pray. So let it be. And brethren, thank you for joining me. And until I see you again, peace be unto you. Shalom.